Welcome to the All Blends Perfectly podcast. Keith, Ryan, Harrison, Coalition Properties, and friends talking about the intersection between lifestyle, real estate, culture, art, and everything in between because it all blends perfectly. All right, friends, welcome back to another episode of It All Blends Perfectly, the podcast led by your Coalition Properties Group leadership, Harrison Beecher, Ryan Butler, and Keith ain't with us today, but we love him. He with us in spirit all the time. Today, we're going to be talking about networking. It's a subject that in our world, in the real estate world, comes up a lot because it's important to make your world bigger and get to know more people. But I'd argue that it is something that people, even outside of just sales business, need to lean into and understand a little bit better. So while this conversation is something that will probably mean a lot to salespeople and realtors, it's our goal to give some good nuggets and some other things that people can take from it in other contexts.
Well, I think it works across the board. And today, guys, really, I'm going to be leading this, asking Harrison Beecher all the questions. Today, I get to ask you all the questions, sir.
Can I throw out an idea real quick for our next presentation? What we're going to do?
Okay, what is this?
You know, I always talk about nuggets, like nuggets and sauce. Like I say that. You heard me say that a couple times.
I don't know why you love chicken nuggets and sauce.
I love
so
chicken nuggets.
Go ahead.
What if next time we talk, I actually have some nuggets and I throw them with some little sauce packets? Like, what if I got them in my pocket?
Oh, you about to get another thug tier.
Some nuggets, and I just throw some nuggets out there.
Oh, get another thug.
And what if they were warm? Okay.
Oh.
So that could be an effective way to network. Be memorable. Throw out hot nuggets because people want them nuggets.
Wait a minute. So are these going to be Chick-fil-A nuggets or are these McDonald's nuggets or Wendy's nuggets? Like, what kind of nuggets are you throwing out?
Just McDonald's. That's the safest bet. That's the safest bet because you can get them no matter where you're talking because McDonald's is everywhere. You might not get Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A ain't everywhere.
Where is Chick-fil-A not?
Some places, right? I feel like some places.
There's not a place you've been where there hasn't been a Chick-fil-A.
No,
the only
man, it's
reason
not everywhere yet. It's not everywhere yet. Chick-fil-A is not everywhere.
Every place that you've been, it probably is.
It's not everywhere.
It's not everywhere, but every place that you've gone to speak,
there'll be a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
very
Chick-fil-A,
good point.
yes.
Yeah.
So up past this nonsense that Harrison is talking about, today we're going to have a conversation on networking. And so, like you said, talking to realtors, entrepreneurs about effective ways to network and grow your connections, your database, your contacts. So let's talk about how do you define networking, Harrison?
Simply, I think networking is making your world bigger. It's getting to know new people, getting to communicate, finding a new point of reference and contact with somebody you maybe haven't talked to before. A really cool part to me about networking, Orion, is the people that are already in my world in some way. I love when I can build a kind of secondary kind of line of interest or conversation line or something with them that lets them know more than just kind of knowing me, having my info on social media, having my phone number in your phone, whatever. Like, here's some value I can actually provide. And that has been directly monetizable, like for us in our life and real estate sales. But I think especially in a world where there's so much opportunity, there's group economics, there's things that people can do together. Like, it's worth it to just know the people around you better. Oh, I clicked timer instead of stopwatch so I could keep us going.
What are you doing, man?
Oh, there we go. It's still going. I don't know why I did that. That's
you
funny.
got it together now?
I do. Yeah, man.
Okay.
I'm trying to watch our clock there.
We try to make sure that we have a decent amount of time on the podcast.
Yeah.
So when a lot of people, Harrison, that are not in sales roles, not in business, they hear the word networking and they get a real ick feeling going on. Talk about that. Like, why do people feel icky and how can they be out in the world? I know you feel the same way about about a lot of things. So I think you're a good person to talk about how to be out in the world, quote unquote, network. I mean, they even when I hear people who don't like networking, they literally probably do this when
they say with their hands. Yeah, air quotes.
They say they air quotes networking
Yeah.
together. Like, let's go network.
Yeah.
Because it's such a weird and foreign like term and concept to them in a lot of ways. Like, they understand the definition of it, I believe, but I think on the implementation of it, it's almost like a brand new world that they're uncomfortable with, and they only know what they see on TV,
Right.
late night infomercials or something like that.
Like the most ridiculous caricature of what networking is, right? I think at the core, Ryan, people have a problem with it because they don't want to be sold, right? Nobody wants to be like, or it's rare that somebody wants to actively be sold something that they don't want. So the way to get over that, if you're looking at networking, is to think of it as, how can I actually make a connection with this person? A connection comes in a whole different ways, right? We're not talking about every time. It's not a deep, intimate, like avatar, like connect your connect your brain together and I see you, right? It's not going to happen in that way. But there is a lot of power in getting to know somebody a little bit better, because it's rare. What I've found is it is rare that somebody is actually listened to. The most powerful part of networking, in my opinion, is not what you say. It's what you elicit in conversation, how well you listen, and how well you pay attention to somebody. Something as simple as body language and direct, eye contact. Not a little too long, because one thug tear comes out.
One thug tear comes out when you look at me too long, Harrison.
But there's something really powerful about some nonverbal cues and some nonverbal communication things that come into effective networking, because it's about getting to know people. And I am of the mind, like, me, I love narrative, I love story, I love I am a naturally curious person. So I think if you can change the posture and perception around networking from one that is pursuing something from the person you're talking to, as opposed to seeking to learn and seeking to understand and being curious about them, it changes the posture completely. Because if we all have that posture of curiosity, that's much better than one where I'm like actively seeking something from you, because that's what makes people feel icky. It's either like an imbalance of it. They don't want to be sold, and they don't want to be perceived as that person that's like, oh, you're here because you want something. If I'm here because I'm curious, I want to know about you, like that's a much better place to be.
Yeah, I think you hit that right on the nail. And a big part of what I've seen with people who are allergic to networking is that they feel like they're talking to someone and I want something from them.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be perceived as just wanting something from someone else. Like, It's like the only reason you network is because I want something. I want a job. I want an interview. I want this or that. So how can you go about quote unquote networking and not be looked at as just, in our world, we call it commission breath.
Yeah.
Right. Or, it's a lot of other words. The only ones I could think of, I probably can't say them right now.
Thirsty AF.
Yeah. Just not being thirsty, looking like you just, want to be near or want somebody. That way it feels, or you can create a more genuine connection.
Well, I think it is best to build up. If this is something that is new to you and it's not natural for folks to go out and meet strangers, ease into it with some circles where you are already familiar. And KW in the Ignite training, they have like that grid that shows all the different like circles that exist in your life, be it, gym, school, alumni network, kids school, church, Greek sorority fraternity, like all these different things, family, right? Like you have the opportunity to start conversations, deeper conversations with people you already know. So start with layups. That's my first point advice, is start with layups and work on some kind of conversation paths with people where there is less fear of rejection, where it's a little bit less awkward, because it's important, I think, to get reps in terms of like having good conversations with people before you go out and do it with complete strangers.
Gotcha. So Harrison, how do I make a layup? And I'm air quote network. And how do I make a layup? Well, how do I even make that intro? What do I say to someone to even start a conversation? I feel like you're about to give like relationship dating advice out here. Yo. Harrison Beach. Let me put my Harrison Beecher voice on. Harrison Beecher, today on All Blends Perfectly, please tell us, how would you approach going to network?
You know what's great? And I'm glad that the title of our podcast is All Blends Perfectly, because it's the same, bro. Like what we're talking about with like business networking is the same if you're dating. It's the same. It's the same.
Wait, so you saying you just gotta have game?
You gotta have game.
You gotta have game.
You gotta either have natural game where you ain't gotta think about it, because some people don't. They just do. Or you need to plan a couple go-tos. I like to think of it as having a bank of things to either share, to both share and ask. I actually learned something recently. I used to always lead with, well, where did you go to school? Right? Where is your, right? That can be loaded for some folks.
For sure.
And I've found some very successful people that did not get there through traditional educational paths. So if you were someone that defaulted to like, well, I went to Georgetown. Where did you go to school? And at one time I thought that was like, oh, a cool thing, because a lot of other people I knew went to, elite schools or whatever. That can be a thing.
You bougie.
Yeah.
That's because you bougie.
Know yourself.
Know thyself.
Know thyself. So how do you prepare? I think first having some kind of either pre-canned, like people love stories and narrative, but also in small chunks. Don't over dominate and open up with a long diatribe explanation.
Even my man Marcus had to laugh at that. He couldn't even hold it in. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So do y'all see, wait? No. You don't
I'm looking up the definition.
Yeah,
you look at what that is.
You look it up. But
Yeah.
don't you just bypass this? Like, this is not something you do all the time. Every time Harrison comes up with this word, I feel like he literally goes to the dictionary, puts his hand down on a random word, and like, you know what? Today I'm using this one in a sentence.
A diatribe is a forceful or bitter verbal attack against someone or something. And a long story where you get cornered feels like an attack. Because we've all had this before, where you're at an event, you're somewhere, and you're trying to be nice, or at least I am. I'm trying to be nice and talk to somebody.
I'm trying to listen to them.
And they won't let me go.
Let me go,
They
please.
won't let me go. So advice one is don't be that person that
And if
traps
they won't let you
somebody.
go, just tell them no. I
Yeah.
know that's really tough to do, but sometimes someone asked me a question recently they said, can I, he said, can I, he was talking, it was like an intro,
Yeah.
and he was like, man, if you got a few minutes, I said, no, actually, I don't have a few minutes. I actually have to go right now.
You got time? No.
No,
I
actually
don't.
right now
Yeah.
it's not a good time.
Did you even give him a card or say, like, we can follow up later? Or you
we're
just
already
left?
connected.
You had already connected.
I'm
Okay.
like,
all right.
Yeah, we're already
Yeah.
connected.
And it's
I'm
not the time. It's not the time.
This is not.
Yeah.
Can I have a few minutes? It's
Read
like
the room. Read the room. So
Yeah.
don't trap people in long stories. Read the room and the space. Because you know another thing that makes me mad is if they talking like too loud, like volume.
Mhm.
How you speak, and again, there's nonverbal, there's verbal cues. If someone's in here and we're in a room like this, and they're yelling at me, and they're talking all loud, and everything that they're saying, like everybody else can hear, like that's uncomfortable.
Not a private conversation.
That's not
anymore.
a private conversation.
Yeah.
Like you presenting to everybody here. That's weird. And if you don't know that, that's a problem too.
That's something you might have to learn it.
So
Everybody's
modulate
not.
your volume to match.
He did it again. He did it again. He did it again. He did it again.
Just make sure you're at the right level. So point one, don't trap people in long conversations. Point two, read the room. Point three, have something that you are ready and willing and able and comfortable to share that's about you, that's rather neutral.
Give me an example of
Yeah.
something you would share that's rather neutral with someone. Give me the conversation starter pack for Harrison Beecher.
All right, so we're going to avoid the hot topics. I'm going to just say that. So I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about politics right out the gate. Not talking about salacious things like sex and other stuff like that. It's like, hey, you never know, man. You got to be literal. Some people don't know.
You need to edit that out. This podcast is supposed to be for all.
Bro, we got the E. We got the explicit thing. Did you see that? We got the explicit thing on our podcast.
What, you must have said something.
Probably did. Yeah, somebody did. I don't know how that.
Oh man, I thought it was E for everyone.
No, man, that's E for explicit, bro. It's parental advisory. We got the DMX parental advisory, dude.
Oh my goodness.
We need to make an album cover with that.
Oh.
All right, so what do you say? Avoid the big topics. I think something that everybody can talk about is food.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a place where we are, I'm comfortable leading with humor. If it's at an event where there is food, what is your comment about the food that's there?
Mm-hmm.
Unless this is the organizer and you're talking about the food they made or the caterer, you probably have some type of comment about the food. Because I open up a lot of times with like talking about sauce or dipping sauce.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, we know.
Yo, everybody has a feeling or opinion about sauce, about their favorite dipping sauce. So if you got nothing else to talk about and you had a place and there's food.
So Harrison's 80-20 rule, his number one hit maker, his number one friend maker is talking about sauce. And if he wants to take it to 100%, he talks about sauce and nuggets.
Look, see, it's come up twice already today.
Obviously, yeah. You put that in my brain.
That is an example of something that everybody can have something to share about. So, I mean, that's simple. If there is the context of the event where you're meeting, there should be some type of observation. And think of it that way. There are observations and there are like critiques. Like if I'm making an observation about something that's going on, it's different than if I'm immediately hating or coming with negativity.
Right.
So I'd avoid negativity. I'd think about observations, and I'd think about conversation points that give them space where they can talk and communicate back. We were just in California not that long ago for Keller Williams family reunion. There are people that have never been to it before. So that was an easy layup question to say, hey, how many family reunions have you attended in the past? Like, that made sense to the attendees of that. It was something specific. If they've been a bunch of times, then you can go down a route of asking where are they from and what's their favorite part or whatever. If they've never been before, then I could provide some advice or conversation. Or if we have both never been before, we're both new to it, like, yo, that's actually dope. Like, what are you planning to do? Where are you planning to go? With whatever decision and conversation tree you begin, I think it's best to leave them more open-ended and leave space for the person you're talking to engage further in conversation if they want to. If their body language is one that's dismissive, or they're looking away, or they're not paying attention, or looking at their watch or phone, it's okay to retreat from a conversation. But even when you retreat, always leave your contact info or something in some way. Because I've had some conversations or connections that did not feel like they were, strong or legit or whatever. But then afterwards, they went and looked me up, or they added me on social, and they were like, oh, you actually be selling a little bit. Okay. All right. And that's important, I think, for folks when you are networking, to never completely disqualify a connection or conversation. Like, the same way you never want to be thrown in a box and have somebody just assume that you're not worth it, or you're not whatever. Don't do that to people when you're meeting.
So what I'm taking away from what you said so far is that one, find a way to connect with people.
Yeah.
Right. You need
to
find
common ground. Seek something to talk about in common ground.
You probably need some sort of elevator pitch with them. And that sounds cheesy, but fundamentally, if you're out, people want to know where you're from.
Yeah.
They want to know some really basic information. How long, if you're in DC, how long have you been here, right? You might be here for 35 years, might be here for 3 years.
You actually in the city, you out in VA somewhere.
Yeah, are you Here this guy again. DC all day.
But even that's a common
sure.
point. Sorry, go ahead.
No, for sure. And so you're making commonalities there. Look at that. Okay. Commonalities there, and then also you want to be able to at least in a short, succinct method give your man. I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll.
He rolling.
And you want to pass this information on and give them something that's not, so many words or not too short, to kind of give them an idea about you.
Yeah.
Right? And then that way from there, you can see if you want to continue the conversation or at the minimum, at least exchange contact information so you can follow up with that person.
Absolutely. And again, for salespeople, especially sales, there's no reason why every interaction you should not have an effective way to connect and make sure they have your follow-up. Business card, link, QR code, whatever, right? There's tons of ways to do it, but you should not leave that without at least giving yours and ideally collecting theirs. That's the most important part.
So let me ask you this, and this is not even on the script. How do you define value? Because I think you want to lead with value.
Yeah.
Right. I think the point is not to be out there and trying to feel like you're taking. You want to give, even with the expectation of nothing in return.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you define value when you're speaking with either a one-on-one conversation or one-to-many when you're out in an event?
That's such a good question, man, because I feel like I personally will connect with, or the value somebody expresses resonates with me when it is something that they are leading confidently with, right? Even if you're in a completely different field or industry, there's passion or enthusiasm or excitement about it. And it's either extreme, either something I know something about and we can dive deep about it. If you're a sci-fi nerd and talk about something I can nerd out about, or if it's something I know nothing about at all, right? And it's something that you're passionate about and can share, that is value to me. So, it is primarily passion and interest and the willingness to share it. I think that's something that everybody brings to the table, and some people discount what they do. Think about our friend group and some of the people we know, right? All the cool stuff they do. And even if it's not that cool, it's mundane. They're just money people talking about money. That's something that'll a lot
that's
of the
cool
world.
To me,
that's really cool. No, but yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's not it's sexy when you make a lot of money. It's cool, but it's not a crazy conversation leading point, but when they can lead with passion about it, like some of our friends that are attorneys that do like random law stuff, but like know all these crazy details. That's what it is. I'd argue that value is directly connected to passion. And if you are someone that's working on articulating your value, a part of that has to be your enthusiasm, your excitement, your willingness and desire to share it first. And that is going to be, kind of a core and almost kind of primal attractive feature that will resonate with other folks. And you also don't have to overthink it. Like on the salesperson side, because that's been our world that we've been in a lot, I feel like folks will discount or underestimate the value that they have to bring to the table based on something that feels kind of mundane and regular to them and every day. Other folks aren't doing it. Like 100%. They work there are people in this, a lot of folks just work 9-to-5 jobs doing some like small segmented thing. And if you have the opportunity to be in a dynamic sales-based or different job, you can talk about that or your other personal life. Like what's the other stuff that you do? Somebody's excited about plants, right? Like if someone's super hype about plants and gonna teach me something, I'm going to listen and I'm going to remember them because that's different. And I'd encourage more folks when you think about networking, like think about your passion point and hopefully you're passionate about something, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would even say that one of the things that we always talk about, which is a value for coalition that sometimes is hard to express, is that the value of the network and the people you know. So I might not know something that you need, but I might know someone who I can connect you with to bring that same type of value. I mean, it can be as simple as, oh, you're out where? Oh, my friend is out there.
Yeah.
And that could be maybe they need to meet more people. Maybe they moved just there and they need to meet some more people. Or you've been there before and like, here's my favorite restaurant. Like the concept of value, I think, is so interesting because we put it on such a high pedestal.
Right. It's got to be so tangible. It's got to be like really high tangible dollar value thing,
and it's got to be so big.
Yeah, scope.
It can't be something small.
Yeah.
But it can be something small. Because to be frank, people who have a lot of access to money and people already who are living at that high level, some of the things that they find valuable are the little things that they don't have access to.
And their world is smaller than you think, right? Like I think we underestimate how small, not in a shade or bad way, how small a lot of people's worlds and circles are, right? I think we did that example of like looking through your phone and seeing how many actual contacts you have, right? Like that, you scroll to the bottom, see how many you have. And if you got more than like 1,000, or if you got more than like
half 1,000, they have like 100, 150, 200 people, maybe.
Right? Yeah. Sorry. It just shows you like how we think about it differently. But like that's, the connections you have are strong, and never underestimate the willingness, desire, or need, quite frankly, the need for somebody else to have a good connection or just a positive conversation interaction. Like that is a value to some folks in a lot of ways. 100%. Just like what I said at the beginning, being heard, like actually listening to them.
A good conversation is super valuable.
Super valuable.
And for the love of God.
Oh, you're looking at the camera, so it's real. Pay attention.
Wait. Please do not pick anybody else's brain. No more brain picking. Yeah. Stop with the brain picking. You should never, ever say to anyone ever again, I want to pick your brain. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Why do you have such a visceral response to that? Like, why does that bug you?
Hey, who's interviewing who over here, all right? But no, it does bother me because usually what that means is that there's not a win-win situation. That means that you are not there to exchange value. That means you are there only to receive value without putting any value out there. And when you have limited time, like my time is precious to me, so I want value no matter, even if it's a simple conversation, right? It like you, however you define value, I define it very similarly. Yeah, and I want to have value in all things that I do. Yeah. So coming is picking my brain
and not waste
time. And it's not that, I mean, I get why people do it, but the amount of people that come and just want to pick your brain, like it's so many people. It's so many people.
We need to pivot this real quick and give a couple minutes to a really important point. I'm going to speak to the hungry young entrepreneur or the hungry person up and coming. This is maybe a DC thing. Maybe this isn't everywhere else.
I'm so thirsty. I need more business. Please help.
Right? Look, that is how people sound. I think they have no idea. I think people have no idea that they
and
come across that
Harrison's reaction is, Oh,
right?
Oh my God.
I'm nicer than that to their face. But then I
Yes.
leave later and be like,
But I mean, even if you did it to their face, maybe that's something they actually need to see a
I would give-
response
if-
where they need feedback to say, hey, man.
if
I
it's real
know-
egregious, I'm gonna give you the feedback. If it's in between, and I know people are well intentioned but just have no idea, then I'll go.
Yeah.
But if you try, because here's the other piece: when you in life are seeking to make that network bigger, and you are looking to ascend in whatever way you define, kind of, I'm gonna use some words here, so strata, like social strata, move up a ladder or whatever, and you're coming to somebody who is someone that you perceive is at a higher level than you, and however you define it, come correct. Come correct. I feel like something you have been great at in building your career was you sought out people that were doing stuff at a high level, and you were intentional and you were thoughtful, and how you showed up, it was both with curiosity but with enthusiasm, and thinking about not just what can I get from this person, but what can I offer. Right. And even if I don't have as much to offer, because I'm not bringing deals, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, you ask the question. Like if someone would just ask, like 9 out of 10 times, if someone's reaching out to someone that's higher up and they make time in their schedule for you, you, number one, got to be prepared.
Yep.
You have to be prepared. Don't come and ask a dumb question that like you could have got the answer online
Google
about
or
me.
something.
Like look, especially if someone's like legit and has like an online presence, look them up before you show up to the meeting. 1, 2. When you're there in that meeting, be thoughtful about the back and forth of the questions you're answering. Don't cut them off. Like I had somebody try to come to me and, talk about something that, and I will always, you jump on my calendar, I got an industry conversations link, like especially folks in any sales industry, whatever, like I want to connect with you.
Yeah,
Like
you
I,
do. Yeah.
Like it brings me joy to like plant a seed. Somebody does some cool stuff with data. Like I love that, but don't waste my time.
Yeah.
Please don't waste my time.
Yeah.
And just prepare and think a little bit more and read the room, like we said.
Because I think part of it is that with the pick your brain thing, you always said that might get you one meeting. It might not get you a meeting at all, but it might get you one meeting.
Yeah.
But what it won't get you is another meeting ever.
Or opportunities or other things like that.
I don't want to meet you again if that's what if like the
Yeah.
second time it's like, hey, can I pick your brain again? It's like, no, you picked my brain enough already. Like that's enough of that. And I've been in that position, so I'm not saying that in a scenario of like I've done that before when I was younger, like. But then I realized, like, if I want to build a long-term relationship with someone, it has to be a win-win. Win-win or no deal.
Yeah.
So to build a long-term relationship with someone, there needs to be an exchange of value.
Yes.
And I need to bring something valuable to them. And quite frankly, if you want a really simple example of how to bring value to someone, find 2, 3, however many people that you want to meet. And what you do is you find something that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Something that they're missing in their business.
Ask the question.
Ask the question.
Ask the question.
Right? How can I help you? Is there anything that's missing
Simple
in your
stuff.
business? I know I'm young in this game, but I've talked to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something I can share from the other people I've met. And they might say, that's interesting. Yeah, this is something I've been looking at. And I would say, great. Well, I talked to XYZ, and this is the answer that they gave me. I have not been implementing because I'm not in the game. I'm not that good, blah, blah, blah. I'm still kind of building my business. But here's what they told me. And I would take one answer from each person and start giving it to the other person. Even if they didn't ask, say, by the way, during our conversation, I heard you mention this. Here's something that this other person.
That's important because that shows you paid attention. Like that's like value 2.0. That's like saying I heard you and I made a connection. Because one of the smartest and best, most successful people, in my opinion, are folks that can actually make those connections, do it in real time, and do it in a way that provides value.
For sure. And what's crazy about it is like when I was doing that in real estate, those people knew each other already.
Yeah.
But they weren't sharing that information. So I brought value by connecting them with each other about these specific points and saying, hey, this person's doing X, Y, Z, and that person's doing ABC.
Yeah. Dude, that's, oh man. And let's be clear, like by no means are we old curmudgeons that don't want to connect with folks, because like it is literally
he did it again. Old what? Say the word.
Curmudgeons.
Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is? Because I don't know what that is. I just know it's old. So if it's old, it's old and pasty. Like what is it? Old and crusty.
The internet's going.
There's so many different like words you could have used, besides curmudgeon. I think this ain't even how you
Curmudgeon,
say
Curmudgeon,
it.
a
Jesus
bad-tempered person, especially an old one.
You see what I got to deal with? You see what I got to deal
Look,
with on a day-to-day
talk
basis?
about value exchange. There has been some outstanding ACT, SAT, Oxford Word of the Year candidates that we have talked about so far.
Fortunately, in this relationship between me and Harrison, he's always had really good verbal skills, and I've always had good math. If we put them together, we probably had a really great SAT score.
Bro, yeah, because my math was terrible.
And my verbal was lacking, for better words.
The power of partnership. But I was saying, neither of us are those old curmudgeons to where we do not want interaction, because it is literally our business and lifeblood to make our world bigger and know people. I'm just saying, please prepare more. Right. And be thoughtful about who you are meeting with, and at least do a little bit of research. And that's it.
And our world is pretty big, and there are different levels to people in our world. So if you want to be kind of closer in, then you want to bring that value. Like when I meet with Gary Keller or Jay Papasan, I want to bring value to them. Yeah. Right. I want to see how can I help them. I'm asking the same questions that I want to be asked. Yeah. If this relationship is kind of like a mentor-mentee relationship, right? And even on a kind of a level playing field, I'm still trying to create that value, because I want them title in my world as well. Someone that's on my playing field. Not that like we're some whatever, right? But that's how. I mean, we've been in the game for a little bit.
Well, it just shows like that perspective and that approach to it just shows a different level of thought around it, because we have both seen the direct success of thoughtful and intentional networking, or just network building. Like just like I say the phrase over and over, making our world bigger in a thoughtful way with people, showing value, articulating value, being clear about it. And look, also acknowledging that the people you're talking to are human, right? Like reading the room is bigger than just being thoughtful about what you say in that moment. It's like being considerate of where that person is and how they're showing up in that time. Because there are some times where people come at us and life be lifing.
Be lifing. Like, and a simple phrase like, hey, I can tell you might not be in a good mood right now, or you're not in a that is something I would probably say.
Like, I can tell you're not prepared for this networking experience today.
Not even that, but say I want to go meet someone, and 1,000 people come up to them and say, "Hey, man, I know you got so many people coming in. This is probably not the right time. I'd love to connect with you later if that's okay." Yeah, and like I know I would appreciate that. It's like great.
That's
later,
who you're gonna remember. That's it. Yeah,
please. Like, oh yeah, you said you're gonna, and then you actually do what you say. I think that's a big part.
That's a really important part. Yeah. And that's another thing, because I know a lot of folks will interact with folks on a many to one side. Like if you go see a keynote speaker, you go to somewhere and someone's on stage and you're waiting in line to talk to them after. I've always wanted to speak to this and be blunt about it, because again, I've been fortunate from when I've had the chance to speak and teach where folks do want to come up and talk after.
Because Harrison Beecher is a nationwide professional speaker.
Get out of here.
This is a true statement. He is a paid professional speaker.
Putting people on game today. All I'm saying is when you have that opportunity to talk with somebody and they just left a one-to-many presentation standpoint, please don't corner them and get crazy deep about and granted, there are a lot of people that are gracious, and I'll always be gracious and take it and be, whatever. But also, I think the most impactful thing you can do in that moment, if you got a small window to talk to somebody and meet with them, is share a detail. I think of it when I got to meet celebrities. The most recent celebrity I got to meet was Raphael Sadiq. It was at random, right? It was in Chicago. Okay. It was the night of this is 20.
I thought you were gonna say Shaq.
No. Oh yeah. Oh, I did meet Shaq too.
I know.
I did meet Shaq that time. All right, so that's a better example. So Shaq, meet him in that moment, and Shaq is just the example. I mean, he's like lifetime icon. Like you grew up in our age, grew up in the 90s. Legend. Like he's the best. He walks through this club and nobody else recognizes him, and I'm like, I mean, they maybe didn't. Nobody went to say him. I followed him. I'm like, yo, childhood idol. I'm going to go talk to Shaq. In that moment, I showed some specific gratitude because of the context. He was in a club and he was about to DJ, and he had been DJing. I have background in DJing and know music. I'm like, yo, the bass music that you're dropping, I know it's something that maybe not everybody has been rocking with, but I love it. I love the pivot. I love everything you do. Love your work ethic. And I was at your first show that you did as a DJ in Vegas a couple years ago, and you killed it. And he was like, oh, Like, bro, that was dope. That was cool. So, like, I take the moment, like, if you have the chance.
By the way you did his facial after that, that's actually. Oh,
can you dig it? Love you, Shaq. For real, that was dope.
Shout out to Shaq.
And Big Chicken Shack. He got some good chicken tenders. He has good tenders.
Did he have good sauce?
At his restaurants.
I can't with you, man. I can't with you.
Shout out to Big Chicken Shack.
Oh my goodness.
Be thoughtful. Say something that shows you paid attention and know something, and don't like overdo your time, and always ask if it's okay to take a picture.
All right, last question.
Yes.
Last question. How do you follow up?
Good point. In the way you said you would, period. So if there was opportunity in that conversation to talk about a next step or something that you were either asking of them or offering of them, do it. I'd say do it in a timely fashion. Normally not within like 30 seconds right after, but I'd say normally within the next day or so, especially if it's somebody that you talked about following up with without a specific directive. And in the follow-up, I normally do it if I have their email. I'm going to do it by email. I'm going to make sure that they've got all of my contact information and anything we talked about. Make sure you're mentioning something from the message. If you hopefully you can remember it, took a note, whatever you can, and leave the room for additional connection and conversation beyond it, right? Like that's, I think, what most people want. If there was somebody that you remembered, you had a good conversation with, I want to know how to get in touch with them in the best way that works for them. And I also want them to know how to get in touch with the best way that works for me. And I want to show them, like you did show before, that I paid attention to what we were talking about. And I'm actually following through with what either I offered or what I wanted to like bring from a value standpoint.
And I would say for the introverts out there, I know it can be scary.
Yeah.
I know it can be overwhelming to be around so many people at an event, and you prefer to be inside the house by yourself watching TV, curled up with a good book on a weekend. But these events are for you as well. And sometimes you just have to find that one or two persons there. One or two people
again,
there.
man. That's so important.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to find one or two people there that you can really connect with, and you can spend your time connecting with those people and getting to know them at a deeper level. And here's the thing, even when you talk to a speaker or someone that like an idol and you follow up, that's scary too. But just send the email.
Send it. Do it. What do you have to lose?
Send the email. And you know what? They might not respond, and that's okay. And it's okay to follow up with them again if they don't respond.
Especially if it's something you
weeks.
actually want or need. Like persistence is like in pursuit of a business opportunity. Like you have to be thoughtfully persistent without being creepy. And when they say no and stop,
say no and stop. But it's okay to follow up, and it's okay to build relationships, and it's okay not to have to meet everybody. It's okay to take a break.
Yeah.
And go to your room and sit down and center yourself or whatever. So I would say like networking is also for people who are not just extroverts.
Correct.
Networking is for everyone. Networking is a weird word, but what it fundamentally is connection. All you want to do is make connections because you really don't know. Shout out to OB, by the way, one of the greatest connectors. Oscar Butler Jr. is one of the greatest networking
and natural
connectors.
Too. Like that's what's and it doesn't feel like, I mean, people who are masters at this at a high level, it doesn't feel staged. It doesn't feel performed. It doesn't feel staged because they just doing what they do. They just connect and communicate with people.
That's all they want to do is connect people. So just remember that networking is about connection. Networking is about building trust and relationships with people. It's not about just trying to get what you want. It has to be a win-win or no deal.
And again, as I've said many times, I think a good closing thought is nothing bad happens when you make your world bigger. Just being thoughtful about the way you approach it, and also being patient, right? Knowing that, we've got a long time to be living and growing and connecting. And again, if you are an introvert, it doesn't have to be 1,000 business cards or contacts in one place, just one or two good ones, because there's also so much power in secondary and tertiary connections. If you, go deeper with somebody, they remember you, they like you.
Secondary and tertiary connections. Secondary is not bad, but tertiary, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that one. It's the third.
Because even in our world, man, I've had people, friends of friends of friends, that have, sent us business, wanted to connect with us, offered us value, been connections around the world. So it's real. Yeah, man, that was fun. See, I get excited. I get a little red.
Yeah, this is right in your alley. It's right up your lane right here.
And shout out to Keith, man. Keith is give him flowers even though he's not here. There are more people that he just connects with in a very small window that remember him, want to know him, and that again, that's that like Jedi level master of like networking,
He's fantastic,
one to many at a high but still like warm. Deep.
Jesus. And on that note, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of It All Blends Perfectly.
Follow us on all social media platforms at All Blends Perfectly. I'm at HL Beach. He is at Ryan Butler Hoya. At All Blends Perfectly is the page for our show, and our team is at Coalition Properties. Thank you so much for joining in.
Keith is at
Keith James, Realtor. Appreciate y'all. See you next time.
All right, guys.